Bonjour French 1, last video of the year. This is the video that goes over all of the answers to your study guide for your second semester French 1 final. I'll go rather quickly, but of course you know you can always rewind or repeat or rewatch anything you need to. Keep in mind that as you're looking at your study guide, the directions for each section tell you the exact directions from the final, and then sometimes what I have you do on the study guide is different than that. So like for example, on this very first section, it tells you listen as Ludmila and Pierre talk about school, match each mini conversation with the picture that best illustrates it. That's not what you're actually doing on your study guide. On your study guide, it says practice by knowing the words below, because of course, there's no way for you to listen to a piece of paper and there's no pictures here and all that. So what you see below are some of the phrases that you'll hear during this listening section. So some of it, the directions will seem strange because they don't match up with what you have to do on the study guide, but I want you to know exactly what's expected of you on your final exam. So for this first section, again, the phrases you'll hear in the listening section include tu as des stylos, which means do you have some pens? Tu aimes la géographie, which is do you like geography? De quoi tu as besoin pour le cours, and which that is what do you need for your class? Est-ce qu'on a un examen aujourd'hui is do we have a test today? Il me faut un livre is I need a book. And l'examen c'est demain is the test, it's tomorrow. The second section is also listening. In this case, you'll hear conversations and you'll match them with an illustration as well. These are some of the phrases that you'll encounter in this one, though a little bit different than the last one. Comment tu t'appelles, which is what is your name? Enchanté, which is nice to meet you. Qu'est-ce que tu fais, qu'est-ce que tu aimes faire comme sport? What do you like to do for sports? Il neige, which is it's snowing. La montagne, which is a mountain. Quand est-ce que tu as maths, which is when do you have math class? C'est difficile, which is it's difficult. Elle est comment, you're asking what is she like, as in how is she? Is she tall or is she short? Elle a les cheveux bruns would be a great answer for that question because it means she has dark or brown hair. And then elle est marrante is she is funny. The third section is a reading section. It's going to be set up just like this. There's going to be less questions though. They'll give you a topic or a category and you have to cross off the food item that does not belong in that category. So for meats, they give you le poulet, which is chicken, le porc, which is pork, le steak, which is steak, and then la quiche, remember, is that egg pie, so it does not belong in the meats category. For dessert, for desserts, they give you la glace, which is ice cream, le chocolat, which is chocolate, la tarte, which is basically a pie, but la tartine, remember, is just the French version of toast, so that does not fit with desserts. For breads, they give you croissant, which is, of course, a croissant, baguette, which is that long French bread, and pain, which is the word for bread. Poisson is the one that does not belong in the breads because it means fish. For sandwiches, they give you croque monsieur, which is the fancy hot ham and cheese sandwich, sandwich au saucisson, which is a sausage or salami sandwich, and sandwich au fromage, which is a cheese sandwich. The only one that's not a sandwich is grenadine. Grenadine is that pomegranate flavored water. For side dishes, salad or salad makes sense, légumes, which are vegetables, makes sense, and riz, which is rice, makes sense, but le pork is a meat, not a side dish. For drinks, grenadine, again, is that pomegranate flavored water, coca is soda, and sirop de menthe is the mint flavored water. Only one that's not a drink, again, is quiche, it's that egg pie. And finally, for breakfast foods, céréales is cereal, bacon is bacon, pamplemousse is grapefruit, poisson is fish, and not generally considered to be a breakfast food. For the next section, you'll have to read a sentence. It'll mostly be based on our food and our table setting kinds of vocabulary. Based on what you see and what's underlined, you have to say whether the underlined item is a logical or normal completion to the sentence or an illogical, weird kind of completion to the sentence. So for number one, on mange du beurre avec des œufs means we eat some butter with some eggs, which doesn't really make sense that you'd be eating butter with your eggs. So I put a B there because eggs is definitely not a logical completion for that sentence. If they'd said something like we eat butter with our toast, that would make sense, but not with your eggs. For number two, on mange de la confiture avec nos tartines is we eat jam or jelly with our, that's that French version of toast is tartine. So that one I put A for logical because putting jelly on your tartine, which again is that French bread, is totally okay and normal. For number three, j'aimerais un verre de lait means I would like a glass of milk. Lait is milk, totally makes sense to put milk in a glass. J'aimerais une assiette de jus d'orange, however, does not make sense because that says I would like a plate of, and then orange juice is underlined. Orange juice is definitely not a normal thing to put on a plate. Number 5, vous voulez du beurre avec vos toasts, is would you like some butter with your toast? Toast is a normal thing to put butter on, so I put A or logical for that. And then finally, the croque monsieur, c'est un sandwich. Croque monsieur is a sandwich. Sandwich is what croque monsieur is, so that totally makes sense. A or logical for that one. The next activity, they're going to have you matching French words for activities, sports, or hobbies with something that those people probably like to do, so something similar. So if it says, I like to go to the pool, then it says that that person likes to swim, that kind of thing. This is the kind of vocabulary you'll need to be familiar with for this section to be able to match up logical activities, including faire de l'exercice, which is to do exercise, faire de la photo, which is to do photography, la piscine, which is the pool, nager, which is to swim, la montagne, which is a mountain, faire du théâtre, which is to do theater or acting, faire du jogging, which is to do jogging, souvent, which is often, an appareil photo numérique is just a digital camera, and en hiver means in the wintertime. The next reading section has you reading a Pen Pals letter and choosing the correct response to some multiple choice questions. Because it's a reading section, the best way I could think to get you prepared is to list some of the vocabulary that's both in the paragraph letter and in the questions. You'll notice that part G, sorry to skip ahead, is also based on the same reading. So you read one paragraph and you answer multiple choice questions for part F. And then on part G, you'll have to decide whether they're true or false statements right after it. So all of the information from these sections, from both the multiple choice part F and the true false part G, are listed here on part F on your study guide. So be familiar with the words for 16 ans, which is 16 years old, combien de personnes, which is how many people, famille is the word for family, père is the word for dad, ma mère is my mom, mes frères are my brothers, ma sœur is my sister, de is the word for two, la mer is the sea or the ocean, été is summertime, sérieux is serious, ennuyeux is boring, or ennuyeuse in here in the feminine plural form, les vacances is vacation, plage is the beach, école is school, il fait chaud is it's hot, des copains are friends, and so are amis, ses amis are his or her friends, sortir is to go out, and paresseux is lazy. Again, you'll see all of these words either in the reading itself or in the multiple choice or true false questions about it, and if you're familiar with them, you'll be able to figure out those correct answers. For part H, you're going to be given Kofi, which is a boy's school schedule, and you're going to be looking at what classes he's taking every day of the week and at what times, and you'll answer some true-false questions based on that schedule. Again, I didn't actually put the schedule on here. I just put several of the words you'll need to be familiar with, including the days of the week. So Monday is lundi, Tuesday is mardi, Wednesday is mercredi, Thursday is jeudi, and Friday is vendredi. Français is French class, Anglais is English class, EPS is PE, Biologie is biology, Histoire is history class, Allemand is German class, Géo is short for Géographie, which is of course geography class, Chimie is chemistry class, Art plastique is art class. If something's happening at 2 heures, it's happening at 2 o'clock. It translates as 2 hours, but we know that is 2 o'clock. L'après-midi is the afternoon. Matin is morning. If they say something about how Kofi a besoin does something, like Kofi a besoin done short, they're saying that Kofi needs something. In this case, Kofi needs some shorts. Sorry that got cut off there, as in he needs shorts for his gym class. L'école is, of course, school, and basket are tennis shoes. So then the next section of your test is going to be fill in the blank. They're going to have you fill in the blank with the right form of an ER verb. So what I have here over to the left are your ER endings. Remember, these are the ones that go along with the song S, S, O, N, S, O, N, S, Z, 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 N, T, N, T. So then when you move over to the right-hand side here, you see an actual ER verb with parler, and you see all of the forms, which is basically just I went through and I dropped the ER and I added these endings to it. You'll be expected to be able to do that on your test. So if they say something like, give me the il form of parler, you'll have to know to drop the ER and add the right ending. Now, not every verb you see on your test will be parler. This is just one example. So if you want to say I speak, it's je parle. If you want to say you speak, it's tu parles. If you want to say he or she speaks, il or elle parle. For we speak, nous parlons. For y'all speak, it's vous parlez. And for they speak, it's ils or elles parlent. The next section of your test will be all about RE verbs. In this particular section, it says complete the sentence, but you'll actually have multiple choice on this section. For this section, you'll need to know that to conjugate an RE verb, you drop the RE and you add the endings that you see over here on the left. Just to remind you, the song for RE verbs went S, S, sh, S, S, sh, O, N, S, O, N, S. Z, ente, Z, ente, les verbes les verbes So over here on the right, I have one sample RE verb. Vendre ends in the letters RE. It means to sell. Obviously, not every single question on this section is going to be based on just this one verb. This is just an exemplary verb to show you how it applies. But you'll notice how for each of these forms, I dropped off the RE, and then I added these endings over here from the left-hand side. So to say I sell, it's je vends. For you sell, it's tu vends. For he or she sells, il or elle vend. For we sell, nous vendons. For y'all sell, vous vendez. And for they sell, ils or elles vendent. And then finally, the third section that's all about our regular verbs is the most recent one, which are IR verbs. On this part, I know it says in the directions you'll complete the sentence. You'll actually have two choices for the correct form of an IR verb. IR verbs, remember, are the ones that end in these endings over here on the right. The song for IR verbs was the one that went IS, IS, IT, ISSONS, ISSEZ, ISSENT. So what you have over here for the IR verb sample is finir. Again, not every verb on your test is going to be finir. This is just one example in which I show you how to drop the IR and add the endings to the right. So I finish or I am finishing is je finis. You finish or you are finishing is tu finis. He or she finishes, il or elle finit. We are finishing, nous finissons. Y'all are finishing, vous finissez. And then they finish or they are finishing, ils or elles finissent. The next grammar section is also multiple choice. It's based on the irregular verb aller. Basically, they'll give you a sentence that's missing aller, and then they'll give you three choices for the right form. So you do need to have this irregular verb memorized enough so that if you're given a multiple choice section, you'll be able to figure out which form of aller matches the subject. Remember, aller happens to be a boot verb, which means that the forms that are inside the very ugly boot that I'm drawing in here, remember the boot encompasses the je form, the tu form, the il form, and then the ils and elles forms. All of those forms are always similar, and then the two that are left out in the cold, nous and vous, are similar to each other. In this case, it means that all of them that are inside the boot start with the letter V, whereas the two that are left out start with ALL. So to say I go or I'm going, it's je vais. You go or you're going is tu vas. He or she goes is il or elle va. We are going is nous allons. Y'all are going is vous allez. And then they go or they are going is ils or elles vont. For our last grammar section, you are actually going to be working with those partitive articles that we just got done learning in class. Partitive articles, remember, are these D words over here. Basically, instead of saying that you want the whole item, you use it whenever you're talking about some of an item. It is going to be set up just like what you see down here on your test, where basically they're going to give you a blank. Your job will be to look at the word that comes after the blank, and the first thing you'll want to think about is whether you talk about a whole one of those items, so you want to say A for that item, because remember these two words over here are the words A for something masculine or A for something feminine, or whether you typically say some of that item. If you say some of that item, you're going to need one of these words over here based on whether it's some of a masculine item, some of a feminine item, some of something starts with a vowel, or some or something plural. So like on this one, they're saying something about more cereal. When you talk about cereal, you don't say a cereal, you say some cereal. And you'll notice that all of your choices are actually forms of the word some. This right here is the feminine form of some. This is the masculine form of some. This is your plural form of some. And this is the right answer because cereal has an S on it and it's plural. For the next one, when you talk about baguette, that long French bread, it's pretty rare for somebody to eat or have or like an entire loaf of bread. So you'll notice that they're saying some bread. So you have three different versions of the word some. It's the key here is knowing whether the word baguette is masculine, starts with a vowel, clearly it does not, or is feminine. So again, you can eliminate this one right off the bat because you know the baguette doesn't start with a vowel, but then the whole masculine-feminine debate takes place. In case you didn't know, baguette is actually masculine. It should be du baguette. For this next one, we're talking about coffee. Obviously, you could either have a coffee, because people order a coffee, or you could have some coffee. You'll notice here that you have the words a in its masculine and feminine form, and then the feminine form of some. The nice thing to look at then is obviously since you're not sure which way it could go, the good news is that coffee's masculine and the only masculine choice is on. Finally, when you talk about milk, it's pretty rare that you say a milk. You usually say some, and you'll see that all three choices here are some. The question is whether it's feminine or plural. Clearly it's not. We can eliminate this right off the bat because milk does not have an S at the end of it, or possibly masculine. In this case, milk is indeed masculine. The good news about this section is if you're familiar with whether the words on your study guide are masculine or feminine, you're going to be fine on your test because they used very similar vocabulary on your actual test. The last two sections are writing sections. Please listen carefully and think about how you can simplify your ideas so that you can be really successful and concise and grammatically correct on these parts. First of all, on part N, they're going to ask you to describe to a student that's going to be coming to your school what the weather is like and what teenagers do during the year, during those different kinds of weather to have fun. So I'm not expecting you to write more than about 4 sentences because if you think about it, if you cover what teenagers do when it's hot in the summer and when it's cold in the winter, you kind of can get an idea of what might happen on the in-between whenever it goes from summer to winter or from winter to summer. So all you really need is to mention the season and what the weather is like in that season, and then one thing that the people like teenagers like to do. So what I have here is en été, which is in the summer, il fait chaud, it's hot, which is me explaining what the weather is like in my area during that time of year. And then nous aimons is we like. I realize I'm not a teenager, but y'all are going to be writing this on your test. The way you say we like is nous aimons. And then nager is a really easy thing to say that people do in hot weather, which is swimming. You can switch things up a little bit if you'd rather start with winter, if you'd rather describe spring and fall instead, that's fine. If you'd rather use something different that you can use in hot weather instead of nager, that's cool too. This is just one idea to kind of get you started. If you describe summer, then you're going to want to describe the opposite time of year as well, which is en hiver, in the winter, il fait froid, it's cold. Again, you need to give people the complete idea of what it's like year-round. So whether you choose to do summer and winter or you choose to do spring and fall is up to you. And then whenever I describe the fact that it's cold in the winter, I explain that nous aimons faire du ski. We like to ski during that time of year because it's so cold. 4 sentences, though, should do it because if you describe summer and winter, you get a good idea of what the extremes are in the weather and what people do during those kinds of weather. For the last section, I'm looking for more like 5 sentences. They're asking you to describe your school schedule. I'm going to give you a limit. You only have to describe 2 classes. For each of those classes, you need to tell how you feel about them as well, though. So it takes 2 sentences to say, I have this class and this is what I feel about it. And then they do give you the extra assignment of asking about your pen pal schedule. You can ask them anything about their schedule, whether they have a class, whether they like a class. So again, your sentences could look very different than mine. This is just a really simplified, easy way to point out some different things that you could say. So when you want to say that you have a class, one thing you do need to have kind of under your belt to be successful at that is the word j'ai. J'ai means I have. So you can plug it up with any class. I use j'ai EPS for I have PE. Then when you go to describe how you feel about it, a lot of times we use the word c'est for it is. So we learn things like c'est facile for it's easy, c'est difficile for it's difficult. Here I use c'est super, which is a cognate to say it's super. It's kind of a generalized thing, but cognates make for easy writing. The next sentence, of course, again, j'ai math, I have math class. Don't forget that we also learned how to say I like and I don't like. So you could use those phrases like j'aime and je n'aime pas, or in this case I use j'adore les maths to say I love math class. That also expresses how you feel about a class. So you don't just have to say it's difficult or it's easy. You could also say I love the class or I don't like the class. Finally, when I went to ask my pen pal a question, I just went ahead and asked him, do you like math? Since I happen to have just said that I like math. Tu aimes les maths is how you would ask, do you like math? But you could also say, tu as les maths? Do you have math class? And that would be a fine question as well. Again, this just gives you an idea of how you can keep it really short and sweet and simple. But really 5 sentences is the minimum to be able to describe 2 classes, give your opinion of them, and ask somebody about their schedule.